We are live. Welcome to Easy to Read Deep Thoughts. Why inflammation with my special guest, Mike Manu. Oh, did I just pronounce your last name right? I've heard it a bunch of times over, but I did not prepare it for this recording.
That's good.
Uh, awesome. Holy cow. Well, I'm going to start off with a quick introduction. Then I'm going to ask Mike to introduce himself, and then we will discuss the structure of the show. My name is Jonathan Geyer. My first noteworthy note is I helped implement a health information exchange for the state of Minnesota. And in that opportunity, I was able to sit down and drink a cup of coffee with 30 some odd thousand veterans. That's a big deal. I bring it up every episode. Why? Because it changed how I think. And this health information exchange, we became the most successful site in the country. Some of what we did here in St. Cloud, Minnesota, was incorporated into the $10 billion Cerner contract, which I'm bringing up because Mike is in the health industry. My second noteworthy note is I coach a boxing class here locally. We started streaming this class online when our gym filled up. We can only fit 50 boxers in there at a time. And that stream has turned out to be a real big deal. We crossed 500. We crossed 500,000 views last night, which is awesome. Alrighty, Mike, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, Jonathan. Thanks for having me on the program today. My name is Mike Manu. I'm currently in Scottsdale, Arizona, in my office here. I've been in the business world for about 40 plus years now. Business coach, started a 9-figure direct sales company in the health and nutrition space back in the early 90s. I've been online since 97. I've had a digital agency, business coach, and now I have my medical company, medical device, life science company that I've had for 20 years, mostly as a lifestyle business, and really got focused about 2.5 years ago to really build out the brand and bring the technology to the world.
Holy cow, that was a great introduction. Something to toss in here. So I met you through the group Alliances, and my wife and I, we went to the Grand Table in Scottsdale, Arizona as part of our honeymoon. And my favorite video of my wedding, you're in it. It's awesome. And you were in it before we really talked. So this is a cool opportunity. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. This is going to be awesome.
Perfect.
Already, and sometimes I deep dive the topics my guests pick, but not all the times. And actually, I'm sharing out loud what I was thinking earlier this morning. This last few I haven't really deep dove. In this one, I didn't really deep dive. Why? Because I have some assumptions on what inflammation is, but I'm saying this out loud because I didn't really study it. It could be what I'm thinking is way off. And that's interesting. I'm a boxer. Health is my world. And, on top of all the VA stuff I just described, I actually don't know a lot about this one. And this is a big deal, right? Like this is kind of like a big part of the human experience. And I'm not very informed on what inflammation is, why it happens, what causes it, how do you deal with it? I don't really know. I have like an elementary understanding, which means this is going to be awesome. It's going to be fun to talk about. Yeah. Perfect. Let me dive right into it. There again, my ask to Mike before we started this was to interrupt me at any point in time. My newsletter is really just a setup for good conversation. If we don't read it at all, I don't really care. Just as long as it's a good conversation, When we run out of things to talk about, we'll go back to the article. And that's it. Awesome. My special guest today is Mike Manu. This week in the business community. Typo here. I met my special guest, Mike Manu, this week in a business community where alliances where entrepreneurs align. I've seen his presentation a couple of times, and Mike is in my favorite video from my wedding. I'm pumped for our conversation already. What is inflammation? And as a boxer, that's actually, I'm just going to read the next paragraph. I want
to ask a question.
Yes, sir.
In that video, was I wearing my Ric Flair outfit or was I normal?
Oh yeah, you were.
I was all Flair. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I debated using that as the cover here for the newsletter, but I'm like, because this is business facing. But
yeah,
I recommend you add it. It's a good one. Awesome. I didn't deep dive into this, which I was just speaking to a moment ago. I did Google inflammation and read the standard description just to ensure didn't make a fool of myself. I understood the definition and didn't say anything embarrassingly far off. I associate the word with pink and red skin, and that's another one of the images I debated, adding up there as our thumbnail and whatnot. But that's I skewed away from that mental because it's bad, right? Like the image of inflammation is bad, and I don't know. I find it kind of repulsive. Is not the right word, but kind of like I associate it with negativity, and I didn't want to associate negativity with the overall theme of this. I think it's a psychological. Yeah. On a higher level, I associate the word with a general not good feeling on whatever we were talking about. And that's what I was speaking to. I made a point to not have an image of inflammation for this conversation on inflammation because of the negative associations ahead of time. You know what I mean? I thought it would skew people away from wanting to click on this. Actually, I could read the next one, but I'm just going to ask you, what is your thoughts? Like when I say inflammation, what do you think of? Like, what's the first image that pops into your head? Because the image that pops into my head is not good. Like I don't like seeing it.
Well, here's the thing. The image that pops into your head is the easy one. And that's called acute inflammation. That's when you stub your toe, break your arm, get in an accident, get knocked a few times to where you're bruised, black and blue, everything else. That's acute inflammation. That's the body's immediate reaction to it. And generally from there, the body will heal over time. And you know that because the swelling goes down, the bruising goes down, the skin color returns to normal. That's not what you have to worry about. What you have to worry about is what's called chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is what's going on inside your body that you can't feel or see. Okay. It can be going on for 10, 20, 30, 40 years inside your body. And then you have the stroke. Then you have the heart attack. Then you have the neuropathy and the diabetic foot ulcer starts to rear its ugly head. Or you start to get dementia, Alzheimer's, any of those other diseases. That's caused by chronic inflammation. So it's the body's and that's always the first thing that happens in any of the major diseases is that chronic inflammation starts to develop. And if you don't detect it, it leads to all those things I just mentioned. And inflammation is a good thing. It's your body's telling yourself or your inner self, I'm injured, I need help. Okay. And there's metabolic pathways within the body that help that healing. So in the acute ones, you see the body's ability to go in, heal, okay? The bruising goes down, the swelling goes down, the black and blue marks go away, it goes away. But what happens on chronic inflammation, the body's asking for help, and so it's looking for the anti-inflammatories to be released, but for whatever reason, they're not being released. And before the body can heal on the inside, you have to eliminate the inflammation. And since you don't know it's there, then the body never heals and it continues to get worse and worse and worse until you have one of those episodes. That's kind of the difference between the two in a nutshell. All cardiovascular disease, they're all inflammatory issues with the cardiovascular system. So that's the difference between the two. Acute's your friend, chronic you don't even know about, and there's no easy way to detect it currently in the marketplace.
So I'm picturing what you just said, or I'm picturing the definition for inflammation, like on a holistic level, like on a higher level, which is kind of hard to, would that be why it's hard to identify? However you just said it, where it could happen for 20 years and you don't even notice it because it's messing with all the variables. There's not like a significant spike that's easy to see.
Well, because there's no signaling within the body that tells you that, because you didn't stub your toe, you didn't break your arm, you didn't get hit, in the head a couple times. So it's just happening on the inside and you don't know it. That's why you can go to the doctor, you think you're healthy and you go to the doctor and they tell you got cancer and you got 6 months to live. Or you think there's a guy who wrote a book called The Art of Running in the late 80s. And he used to do 2 or 3 marathons a week. He was in great shape. And guess what? He died of a heart attack. So, everyone that thinks, the exercise and the running and the treadmills and all that kind of stuff makes you heart healthy, absolutely incorrect. You don't know what's happening on the inside of the body. You don't know unless you have a way in which you can get scanned, or you get an MRI, or you get all those things. But guess what? In today's world, your doctor's just not going to recommend CT scans or MRIs. One, it's invasive because of the radiation. Insurance companies aren't going to pay for it. It's expensive. And they don't do it unless they have a reason to believe you have something going on. But yet we all have something going on the inside. And the key is, can we detect it early enough to prevent it and provide solutions in which to eliminate that so your body can heal wherever that happens to be.
You know, on this show, I speak to measurement bias quite a bit, actually, just in my field of work of perception, like human perception. I speak to measurement bias quite a bit. And I think you just spoke to, or I would say you just spoke to measurement bias too, with the doctors not being able to see this insight. Like what is the most significant? If it's not an easy to see variable, they just kind of skip over it. Or like, yeah.
Well, exactly, because you don't even know you have it. You go get a checkup and you don't know if you have cancer. You don't know if you have cardiovascular plaque. You don't know if you have the start of dementia until you all of a sudden start remembering things, or something happens, or you're not getting the tingling in your hands or your legs caused by neuropathy and all that stuff, or the diabetic foot ulcer shows up. You don't know until it actually rears its ugly head and you see it, and sometimes it's too late.
And that goes back to your point with inflammation. Like just as a general term, I actually haven't thought of it like that until you described it just now. That's interesting. I'll probably ponder on that for a little bit after this conversation.
Well, and here's the thing. It's an easy fix. And most people don't realize that. So if you want to go to a technical level, I mean, I don't know the questions here or whatever, so I don't want to jump too far.
No worries. Go.
Okay. So what happens is there's two substances in the human body that we have to get from the food we eat that the body can't synthesize itself. One is linoleic acid, which is called parent omega-6, and the other one is alpha-linoleic acid, which is parent omega-3. They convert in the body through metabolic pathways. The most important one is what's called the delta-6 desaturase pathway. The linoleic acid is the oils our foods are cooked in. Normally, we would get 75 years ago, we would get them when we ate animals that ate plants that grew up with real soil and nutrients and everything else. And then when we ate the animals, we got our vitamins, we got our minerals, and we got these essential fatty acids, or the cooking oils. There's a bad rap out there on parent omega-6 or linoleic acid that it's very inflammatory, when in fact it's not the linoleic acid, it's the processing or adulteration of the oils. So these are your cooking oils. These are commonly found in your kitchen. Canola oil, vegetable oil, any of those type of oils, they've been all highly chemically processed. Here's the problem with that. Linoleic acid or parent omega-6 is incorporated to every single cell membrane in your entire body, over 100,000 of them, okay? And what they do is you have a bilipid membrane or phospholipid membrane. Half is protein, the other half is fat. Of the fat layer, 25 to 33% is this linoleic acid. It makes the membrane permeable. It allows transfer to get in, transfer to get out. And so what happens is when all we've been eating is processed foods for the last 75 years, or eating stuff that's cooked in regular cooking oil that doesn't never go rancid, that gets incorporated into every one of your cells, which then prevents your cells from functioning correctly, or your mitochondria. Energy is produced on the inside. So what happens when this occurs is that this pathway that's supposed to take these healthy oils that we're supposed to get every single day, and this is in the textbook of medical physiology, Stryer's biochemistry. It's one of the few things that I will trust. What's the Wikipedia that will give you accurate information on? You have to have these every day, okay? So when that oil comes in, it goes to this pathway. And when it goes in the pathway, then it converts it into substrates. One of them is called PGE1, which is the body's most powerful anti-inflammatory, okay? The other was called prostacyclin, which is the body's natural blood thinner. So they're very significant for vascular function and the cardiovascular system, okay? So what happens is when you get that chronic inflammation starting to develop because maybe some cells in certain parts of your body are starting to go haywire and it goes to that pathway, the pathway's been impaired. It can't send the anti-inflammatories, okay? So that the healing starts. So what happens? the inflammation just keeps going and going and going until it rears its ugly head with the stroke, the heart attack, or what have you. They have a very short half-life as well. So that's why you have to have these every single day, because the body uses them in every cell in the human body. Okay. So
that would speak to the holistic thing. Oh, sorry. That would speak to the holistic part I was just talking about, because it is your whole body then, right?
It is your whole body. It all ties together. So if you have a lack of energy, endurance, stamina, if you're having problems with your hormones, if you're starting to lose your memory, if your eyesight's starting to go bad, if you're starting to get the tingles, the arthritis, it all comes back to the body's lack of ability to transfer oxygen and nutrient into the cell membrane. Energy is produced through ATP, and then the toxins are released back out through that same cell membrane that we eliminate through sweat or normal bodily functions. When that doesn't happen, guess what? Disease starts to build up in the human body. And the number one probably out there today, besides the neuropathy, is diabetes, 1 and 2. Okay. Insulin resistant. I had a conversation with somebody who was a health expert online. Insulin's definition is a fat storage hormone. So when we consume sugars, AKA carbs, all carbs convert to sugar. It's just a matter of how fast. Any more than a teaspoon of sugar in your bloodstream at one time, you're considered a diabetic. It's a mathematical number formula. Ask your doctor, go Google it.
It was a huge thing at the VA.
Okay, exactly. So when you're consuming 30, 40, 50, 60 teaspoons of sugar every day because you think you're eating heart healthy, you're having your orange juice in the morning, your whole wheat toast, your cereal. Imagine putting that in a 60-pound kid. They're bouncing off walls. Then at lunch and breakfast and whole grain and this and that. It's all sugar. So once it's more than a teaspoon and your body can't handle it, your pancreas goes to work to secrete insulin. The insulin goes out and grabs the sugar. Now it needs someplace to stick it. Well, normally it would stick it in a fat cell, in a cell to protect you from having all that sugar in your bloodstream. Okay. Well, insulin resistant is when you have so much of the processed oil in your body, the cells become resistant from insulin transfer with the sugar. Okay. Very simple process. Very simple. And then what happens is now you still have the insulin running around, you got the sugar running around, and then you kind of go, and too much sugar, we know all the problems that's going to cause. It's going to cause scarring of the cardiovascular system, blah, blah, blah. I could go on ad nauseum here, but it all ties back together. Now the pancreas, so let's talk about people.
That's still speaking to the wall where you're describing, right? Like it's
exactly. You can't get through the wall
in that function, right?
It no longer functions correctly.
Yeah, holy cow.
Okay, so then we go, well, let's eat 5 or 6 meals a day. And we'll have a little bit of carbs each time. Here's a medical fact. Pancreas is only made to secrete insulin maybe 2 times a day, max 3, because 90% is alpha cells and the other is beta. 90% are for the fats and proteins. The other is for the carbs or the sugars. But yet we eat the inverse of that. We were told to eat the food pyramid, which was 60% sugar and very little fat on the bottom. They turned everybody diabetic and sick.
My wife is pretty passionate. Rage. Yeah,
exactly.
She gets it.
So the key is to minimize the processed fats and the processed oils and supplement with an all organic plant-based oil that's non-adulterated. In other words, it's not been chemically processed. That's the key. When you do that, you'll have more energy, more endurance, more stamina. Women won't have the PMS. Their hormones will function normally at that age. Men, their T levels will stay elevated and high for a very long period of time. All those things, you function correctly. And that's the way it was 75 years ago. Diabetes wasn't detected until the mid-50s when the food pyramid began. Alzheimer's didn't become an issue until Reagan got it in the late 90s, early 2000s. But now these diseases are affecting younger and younger generation of people, from type 1 diabetics in their early teens. That used to be called adult onset diabetes. It didn't happen to you when you're 30 or 40. Why? Their kids are being born deficient right from the womb because of the diet of the mother, where she's supposed to pass on these healthy oils for the cells, the membrane, the brain. And if she nurse feeds, she's supposed to pass it through the breast milk, these oils, linoleic acid.
It's like society declining. right? Like it's
exactly.
yeah.
So it's not a big conspiracy, because why do food manufacturers have to use these oils? Well, the bread has to last a week or 2 weeks at the warehouse, and then it has to go to the store, and it's got to last on the shelf, and then you got to take it home. It's got to last a couple. So all those oils that are supposed to be the healthy cooking oils, they've been adulterated so the bread don't spoil. Bake bread fresh at home with good oil, and it goes bad in 3 days because it's highly oxygenated. That's what you want. It's an oxygen magnet. It's why fish spoils if you leave it out. It goes rancid and it stinks. If something doesn't spoil or go bad for a long time, it's using processed oils. And then you're consuming it, and then your body's using it, and it's doing the opposite of what you want it to do, which is attract oxygen to every cell membrane. All disease and chronic illness is caused by a lack of oxygen at the cellular level. Arthur Guyton, MD, publisher of the #1 medical textbook the last 75 years. What can I tell you?
That goes back to the cell membrane, right? Like its absorption.
We start as one cell in the womb. We grow to 100 trillion cells, give or take, depending upon our size. They all have the exact same membrane makeup. It's just a matter of whether they're part of your skin on the outside, an organ on the inside, your back. They're all cells. They're all made exactly the same way.
I'm picturing like stem cells where you can, it's a blank canvas until you put it somewhere.
Well, but if you take your own stem cells out that are already screwed up and you spin them, guess what? You're putting screwed up stem cells back in. You haven't fixed the problem. And every day more cells are going bad. So they're once you have cell membranes that are very compromised, you're subject to oxidative stress. I mean, a whole list of
whole body. It's exactly. Not it's the whole, but yeah.
If you have a cell membrane that's intact, you don't even antioxidants. Why do you need that? Your cell membrane's protected. It's going to let in what it's supposed to, and it's going to let out what it's supposed to. It's going to function correctly. But the minute you have membranes that are screwed up, you're done. And you can't fix the pathway. Once it's gone, it's gone. So all you can do is supplement with a product that goes around that and helps you with the inflammation so your body can begin healing.
Oh my gosh. I'm just going to say it publicly. So I posted this newsletter late. I didn't give Mike a chance to read it. So he hasn't seen my, some of my setup questions. You just did touch on most of what I was kind of prompted, hoping to prompt you to talk to. Yeah. You just covered it naturally. So like I'm comfortable, or this conversation is going in an awesome direction. This was I was active listening, but this popped into my head, and I think I can retell it. I think you just spoke to another measurement bias, because they're focusing on the economic efficiency of the food that's produced. Like, how long can you get it to last in comparison to the health benefits? Like, what are you measuring your version of success from? And if it was measured from health, I'm not sure what it is. The stuff they put in there to make it last longer would not qualify as good, right? Like, they're measuring it from durability, not from overall. Would you agree? It's kind of like a measurement bias. Like, what do we call success? And health, it sounds like health is not that measure, not what they're hooking up to.
Well, they would all go broke, and you wouldn't have anything to eat, pretty much, except for farm to table. And the most important thing is,
which is not scalable, or not very scalable.
It's exactly. So you minimize the cooking oils in the food you're consuming. I don't eat perfectly. Okay. I'll eat a McDonald's. I'll eat the fries. I'll blah, blah, blah. But I take my supplement every day that I know is going to counteract whatever bad stuff I got in, plus give me enough to function on a daily basis. I've been telling this story recently. I went and got my blood work done 18 months ago just because I wanted to get it done. I never had it done. And when I told the doctor, he wanted to know what I was coming in for, if I felt sick, blah, blah. I said, no, I'm fine, blah, blah, blah. He goes, when's the last time you ever went to the doctor? I said, about 35 years ago. And so I'm and he goes, what? I go, why would I go to the doctor if I'm not sick? And even then it was elective. I didn't need to go. Okay. So he goes, well, okay, we'll get your blood work back. So the next day I got the results. Everything was freaking perfect. Perfect. Okay. And it's a testament because, again, I don't eat the best all the time. I am in really, really good shape.
I ate a Pop-Tart this morning.
That's okay. I probably had a donut yesterday, or maybe 1.5. And I had my coffee this morning. But I take my product every day, and I don't worry about it because I understand the science, and I'm a walking billboard, and so are all the clinicals and the results and the people I work with on a daily basis and the doctors I work with that use our prescribe our products on a daily basis. And so, I don't have to worry about it. But inflammation is the silent killer, they call it. Chronic inflammation is the silent killer.
Yeah, in my mind, I'm a visual thinker. So when my brain, when I latch onto one of your points, it usually pops into my head as an image, and I'm picturing this holistic, and I think I labeled it a few other things along the way, but like World War, right? And yeah, which is negative, right? And that's it's a silent killer, is what you just said, because it's everywhere. There is nowhere to run.
No, you're either diabetes, cancer, or heart disease are going to get you, one of the three. Oh. And they're all caused by the exact same thing: processed oils.
Oh my God. This speaking of deep thoughts, I think we could run down. We're like tiptoeing rabbit holes on either side as we have this conversation. So I have a little clock up on top, and it's saying we're at 26 minutes, which means we have like 2.5 minutes left here. I would like you to plug your company, Oxygen for Life. This show is doing awesome. We have people from the White House that attend nearly every episode. An episode ago, we had 17,000 people watch this replay. Wow. The vast majority of which were director level or I can't remember what it is. The highest people in Washington, D.C. watch this show. And I would like to give an opportunity to you to talk about your company. And then, at the very end, I'm going to ask you to close out this show. But right now, plug your company. This is a great opportunity. Sure. Yeah.
Sure. So for 20-something years, we've had a patented all organic plant oil that takes care of all these things. We can't make the medical claims, obviously, but we do have the success working with doctors all around the world with the product. We have a patented medical food that falls under the Orphan Drug Act that has to be recommended by a physician for 13 major chronic inflammatory diseases. And we have the most advanced, non-invasive infrared imaging equipment that can scan the human body in literally minutes and detect where you have chronic inflammatory issues, pain issues that you may not even know about. We can put you on one of the protocols. The doctor can come back in and have you scanned in 30, 60, 90 days, depending upon it. And you'll literally see the results, and or if you need higher dosage or less dosage. And again, this is all organic plant oils. And we also have an AI database of over 1 million scanned images that helps the practitioner diagnose and prescribe treatment for whatever the patient has, also with scientific sites as well. So we have the most advanced AI database in the world for inflammatory diseases.
Holy cow, that was awesome. When I did Google, I saw that. Oh my gosh, you're gonna have to describe it again. The infrared,
the thermalens. Yeah, thermalens.
I was scratching my head about. Describe that a little bit more, if you're willing. Yeah. I was Yeah. It perked up my curiosity. What am I looking at is what I said when I saw that.
So it's an FDA cleared device. That's a camera. Think of night vision goggles.
Yes, sir.
That literally can detect the smallest temperature difference within the human body. Like a match, a candle, like across the room, it can detect temperatures. So the body's going to give off inflammation. The body's either going to heat up or cool off depending upon the area of the body. And the camera can see it non-invasively. Babies it can be used on babies. It's been used on fetuses in the womb prior to surgery, where there were problems with circulation of the infant's hands that were turning blue. So we knew it was a lack, but there was no other way in which to determine that except through an infrared imaging system or machine. What we're working on with the VA is for diabetic neuropathy and diabetic foot ulcers,
which is a huge deal.
See a foot ulcer before it even shows up. Imagine, and then be able to recommend a product that in 30, 60, 90 days will heal that wound so it never manifests. Or if there's already one that's showing, will heal that wound as well. So it's powerful stuff. And we're just now bringing it to the U.S.
Oh my gosh. I'm an empath, right? And working in the VA, what you're describing is just a horrific thing to see. Like and then those, I forget what you called it, those sores, those ulcers,
Diabetic foot ulcers.
you eventually get your leg chopped off. Like
Well,
it's horrifying.
So
right?
here's the numbers from the VA. Once you have lower limb amputation in the VA from diabetic foot ulcers, the survival rate for about 70% of the veterans is 3.5 years.
What? Oh my God.
Because that's their numbers. That's more than all the soldiers who have died in all the wars since World War I combined. That's their number.
Goosebumps as we talk about it. Really, it was hard to look at, or just because you feel so bad for her. They're great people,
Because here's what happened: all you did was cut off where it was fully exposed, and you forced the problem further up into the body.
Ooh.
You didn't solve the inflammation problem, which is caused by the processed oils. It can all be reversed.
Treating the symptom and not the disease. That would be the term there, right?
Yep. Ours does both. Cause and symptom, same time.
What is yours called?
Parent Essential Oils is the one that's over the counter. Anyone can buy on our website. And the other one is called Brivanta, and it falls under the Orphan Drug Act. So it's manufactured to the same specifications as a drug and the same FDA approved food manufacturing facility. And you just need a recommendation from your doctor that you need it. You don't need a prescription.
Oh, awesome. These are what you just described. Those are the ones that you linked in our private chat, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to take those links and I'll put it into here. The vast majority of views come after the live or after this plays, like people watching it over the weekend.
Perfect. Awesome.
Well, holy cow. This was a great episode, Mike. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. Oh, you know what? I have a thing that I like to do with, it's kind of an ambush on my guests. I would like you to come up with a closing thought. Like what would you like our audience to take away from this conversation? Distill everything that we just touched on to like one bullet point, the thing that's going to resonate with them when they're sleeping tonight.
Well, I guess the only thing that I can say is, I do this business because I look at the kids and I see what the kids are already going through at younger and younger ages, and it doesn't have to be that way. The solution is so simple, but most people, including doctors, don't understand biochemistry. They don't understand it because doctors don't have to study it. They get bombarded by drug companies and just take this drug, take that drug, and everything else, where just go back to the simple way the human body works. And if it works for one thing, it works for all things. So do your research, do your homework, and find someone that you really trust and believe in by their results, not by what they say is going to happen.
Oh my God, that couldn't have been better if we scripted it. Holy cow, that's it. We're done. We will not top that. That was a great ending.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. This is going to be awesome.